Welcome, everyone, to the World Wrestling Federation. Welcome to the Cup Coliseum in Hamilton, Ontario. Yes, this is the Royal Rumble.
It's time to rumble! It's time for the Royal Rumble, where it's every man for himself. They got it! Ladies and gentlemen, I told you so! The Royal Rumble! I told you!
The winner of the 1994 Royal Rumble, the winners are Lex Luger and Bret Hart. Only one of Shawn Michaels' feet hits the floor. What? Therefore, the winner of the 1995 Royal Rumble, the Heartbreak Kid. Wait a minute, we have a replay.
I know what we got now. They're getting it on. Wait a minute. No! Mr. McMahon has won the Royal Rumble.
Mr. McMahon.
I knew it. Mr. McMahon has eliminated the Rattlesnake thanks to The Rock. Who's number 30? After being prohibited from being in it. What? Wait a minute. What the hell? What is this? It's John Cena. John Cena. Oh my gosh. Number 30. This is unbelievable. You gotta be kidding me. Oh my God. Triple H's expression told the entire story.
It's time for the Royal Rumble!
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
WBCB presents Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Tell me he didn't just say that.
Call in with a question or comment at 215-949-3232 or 888-922-2149.
The Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey, oh yeah.
And now, here's your host of Pro Wrestling Weekly, Faran Derry.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Really? Yeah!
Welcome to Royal Rumble Weekend. Hello and welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Faran Derry here with you. Of course, we're talking Royal Rumble. Of course, it's tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. I'll have my predictions certain to go wrong in this hour. We also want to look back as Royal Rumble turns 25. No, it is not the 25th anniversary, as WWE will tell you. They evidently need to look up the definition of what anniversary means, because I think they mean to say annual, and we went through this with WrestleMania a few years ago. I don't know what exactly they're going with that, but we want to look back at some of your favorite moments. Obviously, you heard a few of them there in the opening clip. Of course, going back to that infamous introduction of the very first one where... No, that theme that you heard, that wasn't the initial Royal Rumble theme. That was actually in the background, the initial entrance theme of Ravishing Rick Rude. Of course, they ended up tweaking it a little bit later, but that was very early on in Ravishing Rick Rude's line there. And then, of course, another intro from McMahon. Ric Flair winning the 92 Royal Rumble. We had that in the clip there, of course, starting off at number 3 and making it all the way to the end. Lasting roughly an hour. One of a few people to, a very select few people to do that. And then, of course, the infamous co-winners from 94. That was my first Royal Rumble that I had seen as a youth. Bret Hart and Lex Luger both going over the top rope at the same time. And inconclusive camera angles, despite McMahon saying, we have a replay. Or, well, no, actually, the we have a replay was from 95, which is our next bit. Of course, Shawn Michaels only having 1 foot landing on the floor, and that's why they've made crucial now that you have to be thrown over the top rope and both feet have to hit the floor, courtesy of Shawn Michaels, who went wire to wire, went in at number 1, and, of course, won the Rumble. Didn't quite get it done at WrestleMania that year, but there are numerous statistics and bits and tidbits and information about that, and I've got a few of those facts and figures. We'll go over those as the hour goes on. But along with the Rumble, we've got a lot of other different news. Last Saturday, Jim Ross, good old JR, he wrote that he was involved in a car accident, got hit by a pickup, totaled my Escalade, or so Body Shop thinks. Seatbelt and airbag saved me. That's what he had said on Twitter. He has a much more extensive explanation of everything that happened. Thankfully, he's okay. But that explanation, of course, is on his blog. You can check that out at jrsbarbecue.com. Also, Randy Orton, he returned to action over the course of this week. It looks like we'll be seeing him in the Rumble. We'll talk a little bit more about that throughout the hour. And also coming up a little bit later on the other side of our first time out, well, we've got the promotion for after the Rumble that occurred before the Rumble. WWE kind of taking a page out of TNA's book and promoting their next television show in lieu of promoting the pay-per-view that is upcoming. Interesting strategy on their part, but we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in the second segment. Another bit of news, Rey Mysterio, he posted a new video in which he addressed his recovery from knee surgery. He noted that he started running in a pool last week and is hopeful that he'll be able to jog on a treadmill within the next couple of weeks. He said he's still hoping to make it back for WrestleMania 28. So unless it's some sort of a ruse, kind of like what we saw with John Cena from 2008, I wouldn't expect to see the master of the 619 showing up as a mystery or surprise entrant in tomorrow night's Royal Rumble. Although stranger things have happened, as we found out from that infamous Madison Square Garden appearance. John Cena, number 30, shocking the world, showing up just under 3 months removed from pectoral surgery. That he was expected to be out 7 to 12 months, and he ended up coming back in just under 3, bigger and better than ever. Can't imagine how that happened, wink, wink. But nonetheless, Cena winning the 2008 Royal Rumble, coming back from surgery. Some interesting moments. I know I've thrown quite a few out there, and a personal memory for me as far as the Royal Rumble is the one that I was able to attend live and the one that WWE will never show you again. Of course, the 2004 Royal Rumble, which was held, well, I guess at the now Wells Fargo, but then Wachovia Center back in 2004, where Chris Benoit went wire to wire, entered in at number 1, and won the Rumble in 2004. Something you'll never see again on WWE TV, but if you check out the Facebook fan page, I've been doing some Today in Wrestling History Rumble editions all this week, and I have on the site there, of course, go to Facebook and type in WBCB Pro Wrestling Weekly. Go ahead and like us. You can comment. Give your Facebook feedback, which I'll be certainly reading a ton of those. But I have the entire 2004 Royal Rumble match posted on the Facebook page, so you definitely want to go ahead and check that out. Let's go ahead and get to the phones. We've got Dan from Chicago waiting ever so patiently. Let's go ahead and get him up here. Wild Bill, thank you. Dan, welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
How you doing, Ron?
Doing great. Looking forward to the Rumble tomorrow. What's on your mind?
Me too. I thought Rey Mysterio was number 1, but when you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that he was number 2. It was Triple H versus Rey Mysterio, and then they went all the way. Both of them went all the way to the end, and yeah, Rey won. I remember that now after you posted that. So
yeah,
thank you for reminding me about that.
No problem. Yeah, Dan's referring to, there was a bit of a debate, or I guess a question that you had. You thought that you were calling WWE on what you thought was something erroneous, that only two, well, it was actually fact, that only 2 superstars have gone wire to wire from number 1 as the number 1 entrant and made it all the way to win the Rumble. Of course, Michaels in 95. And Chris Benoit in 2004. Mysterio, he was one of the first 2 in the ring, but he was officially number 2 when he won in 2006. But he did hold another notable record in that he has spent the longest amount of time in the ring as a Rumble winner, or actually even as a non-Rumble winner, lasting 62 minutes and 12 seconds. That's right, 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 12 seconds.
So do you think they're going to do something like that with The Miz tomorrow night since he's number 1?
You tend to see that a little bit. I know a couple of years ago, CM Punk tended to last a little while. I mean, during giving him a chance to get on the microphone and trash talk a little bit and do some of his straight edge society gimmicks. So I thought that was rather interesting. I could see Miz going. I mean, knowing how Miz at least he is with stamina, I could see him starting at number 1 and probably going a good 35 to 40 minutes, probably getting eliminated somewhere around the early 20s.
I'm really glad that they pushed it back to 30 because that 40 thing was a debacle as far as I was concerned.
And I think they just received nothing but negative feedback from it, so they realized, okay, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but we're going to go ahead and scale it back to what everybody's used to. You know, it was just a classic example of if some is good, more is better, but in this case, that wasn't what happened.
Right. I just think it's funny that they don't even mention that last year was 40. They mention about Santino's little thing, but they don't even mention the fact that last year they had 40 people there. I think that's funny.
Well, it's not that they don't mention it. It's just that they don't highlight it. They don't make it like a big deal. Like, oh, last year was our biggest ever, and it was also one of our more boring because we don't necessarily have the roster space. And I think that's a little bit also of why they've had to scale back to 30. They've had so many roster cuts, cutbacks, future endeavorings that, I mean, they're squeezing out just to get the 30, let alone 40. I mean, look at how usually you have like an announcement of a good like 25 to 28 of the guys who are in. So far, we have officially announced in the Rumble. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
Usually, like a month prior to that, there'd be like 28.
Yeah, and you'd have qualifying matches and all that,
right,
but that's all been kind of thrown by the wayside. The only semblance of a qualifying match we had was the Miz against R-Truth, where the loser ends up getting the number 1 spot, which we just talked about. But other than that, I mean, it's been announced. Here are the ones who are officially announced in the Rumble. You've got the Miz, R-Truth, obviously, Mick Foley, courtesy of Raw this past Monday, and John Laurinaitis, Sheamus, Wade Barrett, Randy Orton, Santino Marella, and Chris Jericho.
Is Chris Jericho definitely in? Because the way he acted, like maybe it had nothing to do with the Royal Rumble match itself.
As far as I know, I mean, I can double check my notes and whatnot, but
okay.
But it's I believe he was announced to actually be in the Rumble match.
Okay.
And then, I mean, there are some names that are pretty likely, like even though they weren't announced as in, I mean, you know that they're in there and probably aren't, at best they're a dark horse to win it. I mean, names like Cody Rhodes, Jack Swagger, Kofi Kingston. You'll probably get a little bit of the dance thing from Brodus Clay, the Funkasaurus, Heath Slater, Jinder Mahal. But, I mean, these guys don't. Vince would say they have no chance in hell.
Right. But here, Brutus Magnus, like, God help me, I love the guy.
Brodus Clay, you mean, or?
Yeah, sorry. I love that guy. But yet I hate Zack Ryder. Go figure.
Yeah, and there's a name that I mean, I guess with this whole broken back angle, I mean, are they gonna kind of go with the sympathetic pick necessarily? I mean, I don't think they're going to go with a WrestleMania main event push for Zack Ryder at this point.
Yeah,
that'd be an even stronger push than Garrett Bischoff over in TNA.
We're not even talking about TNA this week. I don't even want to talk about that. Forget it. Forget that. I'm going to even forget that you even mentioned that.
Okay, but fair enough.
Anyway, yeah. So like Jericho really sold me actually on the Royal Rumble. He's a heel. He's playing the heel, and the fans are stupid.
Well, I think a little bit of it also, I mean, Jericho hasn't been back very long, and for a lot of cities, I mean, this is their first time seeing him since he's come back from that 16-month layoff.
Right.
So they still, despite what's going on TV, they still want to cheer him.
Right. People know him, too, from Dancing with the Stars.
Yes, there is a little bit of and that's something, that's a dynamic I didn't even think of, there is a lot of mainstream crossover. I mean, even if, let's say, the kids are saying, Mommy, Daddy, let's go watch WWE, and they're like, what the heck's WWE? They can at least go, oh, I know Chris Jericho from Dancing with the Stars.
Right. And maybe, people know him from Fozzy, too, maybe.
Well, I think that's a little bit of a smaller sector. I mean, more people watch, a major network television program than they do necessarily following a heavy metal band.
He goes on a syndicated talk show off and on, Eddie Trunk. I don't know if you know who Eddie Trunk is. He's like a shock jock, heavy metal.
I do not.
Extraordinary kind of type person. He has a VH1 show called That Metal Show. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Sometimes Jericho will even be on that show. So he knows a lot about. I give that guy credit. He's a good storyteller when it comes to metal.
Yeah, no, he knows a lot of different things. I mean, not to mention, again, to a smaller degree. I mean, he shows up on the G4 network, the Attack of the Show. He's kind of a semi-regular on that. He had that short-lived game show about a year and a half ago, Downfall. Which, again, he was a great host, but it was a horrible, horrible concept. Alan Ludden and Gene Rayburn and some of the greats were rolling over in their grave just at that concept. Bill Cullen and the like.
Where do you think, in your opinion, they're going with the Kane and John Cena storyline?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if one or both of them ended up in the Rumble, again, because of a lack of guys, really. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. There's not, if they want to keep John Cena as a face, there really isn't a lot of direct. It looks like it's going to be, it's going to be John Cena legitimately rising above the hate and, basically squashing Kane, and we're kind of back to the John Cena that we've been used to for the last few years.
Mm-hmm. So they're teasing the thing. They're teasing the heel turn without doing the heel turn.
Yeah, no, it would absolutely shock me, and I will come on and say that I was absolutely gobsmacked if that's what happened. But I don't see them turning him for all the reasons that we've said. Most notably, as Mel Brooks said in Spaceballs, merchandising. Yeah, it's all about making that money, and John Cena sells more T-shirts and hats and wristbands and all that other stuff that puts money in Vince McMahon's pocket. He sells more of it than anybody.
I know, but I know we can debate about this till the end of time. Look what they did with Hogan and the NWO when they turned Hogan heel.
Yeah, but Vince didn't do that.
They sold merchandising. They sold everything. When it comes, Hollywood Hogan T-shirts, bandanas, NWO T-shirts. They did it.
Well, true, but I think also by that point, I mean, look at how first of all, it wasn't Vince McMahon who did that. That was obviously WCW. That was Eric Bischoff. Yeah. That's part of it. But part of it also, I mean, Vince milked his 9 years out of Hogan merchandise, out of the yellow and red. Mm-hmm. And, eventually was able to milk a little bit more with the nostalgia tour from like 02 to 08. So, I mean, right. he certainly got his money out of that. And, whatever he made out of the NWO, it was probably peanuts by comparison. And I guess he figures, well, people have been there, done that. And I don't know. Cena at this point is kind of a better... What would he necessarily do as a heel? I mean, considering that we're in a PG realm, he can't exactly go back to the sassy, smarmy raps that he was doing back in 04. Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which I was going to say, I was about to repeat one of them. Like, wait, I may have to dump myself if I do. So we're not going to go into that. But I mean, like the raps that he did against the Big Show, for example, when they were feuding over the U.S. title.
Right. I remember those days. Do you think we'll get a surprise entry from somebody tomorrow?
I'm sure we will, and I mean, I've heard people say that tomorrow's where we're going to see the Undertaker, and maybe I think that's a little bit early. I think we if anything, when Triple H makes an appearance to evaluate the job performance of John Laurinaitis on Monday, maybe
that's
that.
What I don't get.
Go ahead.
Pardon me. I thought he was relieved from his COO duties.
Well, he was relieved from basically being in charge of Raw. Well, I would say Raw and SmackDown, but pretty much if you're general manager, you're running Raw. Right. So it was his general manager post, but he's still the chief operating officer, at least on screen.
Okay, from what I got out of Vince coming out that he was relieved of all duties, I didn't realize it was just the general manager duties.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't told go home, take care of my grandkids. I got things here. No, it's just you're relieved of your basically on-screen duties.
Got it.
But you're still, I guess, part of the board, part of the, but it's still kind of murky, and I don't even. I'm sure if you tied down, the Raw creative, they probably wouldn't be able to tell you the exact lineage as far as the hierarchy that they've created in terms of the WWE.
Do you think it's too soon for a Lesnar return tomorrow?
I think. Well, A, I don't think you can pay Lesnar enough, and B, because of that, if he were going to come back, it would be for a WrestleMania, not necessarily a Royal Rumble, because he knows more people are watching WrestleMania than they are the Rumble. Okay. Even though I'll admit the Rumble I like the Rumble as much as, if not even a little bit more than WrestleMania, but. Again, it's a mass marketing thing. A lot of people like the NFC and AFC championships as opposed to the big game next week.
Right.
So
yeah, exactly.
Because more often than not, it ends in a blowout. But at the same time, what are more people watching? They're watching the one next week, not the one last week. So it's the same type of deal. So he knows bigger event, bigger payday, so he's going to hold out for that. And this year, it's all about The Rock. So I don't think you're going to see the next big thing that wasn't this year.
Do you think we'll see The Rock? Because here's my thing on that whole thing with John Cena versus The Rock, and I'll let you go after I get my thought on this. How are they going to make that match between Cena and The Rock bigger than just a one-on-one match? Because remember Cena earlier or later last year said he wants this match to be for the WWE Championship. How are they going to... I mean, obviously Cena can win the title at Elimination Chamber or somewhere else, on Raw or something. He can win the title. Or you could have The Rock win the title and they could flip-flop. How are they going to go about doing that, though, in your opinion? Because it can't just be a one-on-one match. That's not going to be the main event. The main event's got to be with the WWE title on the line.
Well, there's a lot that would have to go into it. I mean, you would have to hope, if that were the case, that if Cena, let's say, at Elimination Chamber won the WWE Championship, that you'd have to have the winner of the Rumble come out of SmackDown to be able to challenge for the World Championship. Which, if that's the case, I mean, I could see very possibly, I don't know, a Sheamus, Daniel Bryan match, perhaps. And then that kind of puts the focus of, if Sheamus were to win the Rumble, that would put the focus on the Rumble winner and then allow Cena to, let's say, challenge for and win the title at Elimination Chamber, and next thing you know, boom, you've got Cena versus Rock for the title.
Or you do a thing where they've always wanted to have an undisputed heavyweight title. Do you think there'd be a way that The Rock could have... I know I'm going way off base here, but could there be a possibility where you could have The Rock winning the world title at some point? And then Elimination Chamber, maybe split it up, and then you could have, both champions fight each other at WrestleMania.
No, you're not going to... the Survivor Series and WrestleMania, those are the two matches you're going to see Rock in. You're not going to see him challenging for a belt beforehand. I mean, you'll see him make appearances on various Raws. They've already announced that, the last Monday in February and a couple of Mondays in March. Of course, one of them not being the one that's in Philadelphia on March 19th. That hasn't been confirmed. But, The Rock has tweeted that he's going to be going to Boston when Raw's in Boston. I forget if it's late February or early March.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think in Cleveland on March 12th. And then, of course, the show right before Raw. I forget off the top of my head where that is. But he's going to be at that one. But... No, I think he's just going to be making appearances, of course, getting on the microphone, ripping Cena as he does so well.
Okay. And I think they've done a good job separating those two for the past year or two. I really think they've done a good job.
Well, they set themselves up with a challenge. By announcing a main event a year in advance, you have to do, you have to kind of back off a little bit to keep it interesting, because if you continually press, by the time you hit Survivor Series, everybody's already bored of it, and, by the time you get to it, the buy rates are going to be through the floor.
Are you going to be tweeting or doing Facebooking on Sunday? Or are you going to be just chilling and watching it? I like when we go back, I like going back and forth when you're watching it.
Yeah, I'm still kind of working on the technological things of it. I'll actually be kind of reuniting with an old buddy of mine. I'll actually be going over to former co-host and longtime friend of the show, Richie. I'll be going over to his house for the gala, the event that is the Royal Rumble. So I'm sure I'll be socializing, but I'll more than likely have the phone out and be, I'll throw a Facebook post here or a tweet there, just based on whatever it is that I see, because I don't know. Those things tend to happen, and yes, when I have done that, you never know what I'm going to say, because I'm not bound by microphone restrictions. So whatever gets tweeted there, it may not necessarily be as politically correct as I keep myself here on WBCB. So
all right, I'll let you go. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk next week.
All right, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Great call as always. Good stuff. Let's go ahead and take care of our first bit of business, and then we'll get to Ed on the other side as well as you. Still have some Facebook feedback to get to. Got more news. A ton of stuff to do already, and we're already halfway through the hour. It's amazing how time flies, especially on Royal Rumble weekend. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about John Laurinaitis and his ongoing feud with CM Punk and how it got a little bit of a twist courtesy of the WWE Board of Directors. All that and more here on Pro Wrestling Weekly. 215-949-3232. Toll free at 888-922-2149. Those are the numbers to get to us. You can also chime in on the Facebook page, WBCB Pro Wrestling Weekly. And if you happen to miss a show, we've got archives. Type in WBCB Pro Wrestling Weekly at YouTube, and you'll be able to get archives of the shows. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.